Hi, so I'm Nick Russo. This is Kyle Lunt. We're both first-year students in the Accelerated Masters of Public Policy program, Center for Public Policy and Administration. And so as you can see here, we did our consulting work with Amherst Media, which is Amherst's public access television station. They've been in operation for about over 30 years, providing all sorts of video content, and trainings and access to other resources for video production. And recently have sort of undergone a switch to a more digital format and less focused on just a cable-only format, which had traditionally been the model for public access stations. So one of the things, basically, that they approached us to work on is that they offer they're an Apple-authorized training center, and so through that they offer Apple certification trainings and Final Cut Pro, which is a video editing software. And so basically what it is a way for professionals in video to become certified, and it's a program through Apple that you take a few classes, you do an exam at the end of the classes, you pay roughly $1,000 to $1,500 depending on the training center, and then you get to put a little logo on your resume and you have a certificate that says that you're certified in Final Cut Pro. And so what Amherst Media does is they offer the training and the facilities for that certification process.
And this is a relatively new development for them. So what they called us in for was how to get more people to these classes. And they have 6 computers in their lab and 1 instructor. And they've been having a hard time sometimes even getting between 1 and 3 people into the classes. And they're wondering if it's just low demand or what the problem is. And was Apple training a good idea in the first place? So they did what anyone would have done in this situation, and they called me and Nick.
And so our methodology, we went in for an interview. Jim Lesko is the executive director, Craig Sinclair is the director of media technologies, and we just sort of had a conversation about them, about some of the difficulties that they're having with their organization and getting people into their trainings. Basically Final Cut 7 or Final Cut 10 was a big question. There was just this big change that happened that Apple sort of switched over to a new product. The new one wasn't as popular as the old one, so they had all these sort of questions that they were thinking might be the source of their issues not getting people in for training. So we just had some conversations there. And we decided to do basically 3 semi-structured case study interviews with other authorized Apple training centers in the Northeast. So each interview was about 20 to 45 minutes long, and the first was done over the phone at Future Media Concepts based in Boston. They're an international organization as well, but they're based there. Business Rules Incorporated in Rhine Cliff, New York, and in Instruct Us in Windsor, Connecticut. And so we also, in addition to that, interviewed Kiri Roberts, who's the instructor. He's a sort of a freelance trainer that Amherst Media works with and hires for each of these trainings. So we talked about some of the things that he has there. So basically, what we found through these interviews is that Final Cut Pro isn't the primary thing that people that go to get trained at other training centers ask for.
And basically, basic Apple IT courses are really the bread and butter for these other centers. And Amherst is the only one of the group, out of the people that we talk to, that aren't currently offering the IT courses. They're only offering Final Cut Pro.
And so, as we found, the majority of class takers are actually employees from businesses that, from IT departments and businesses that need to get trained in, server management or operating system management or something like that. And so the business essentially contacts the training center and sends them, their employees to get trained and certified in Apple IT software.
And that kind of builds a stability factor because you create a relationship with these businesses that want their employees trained, and it's a continual thing. They're always sending people in, and they can connect you with other businesses as well who need the same thing. And the thing that we noticed about when we called these other places was that at Amherst Media, it's about $800 to take the Final Cut course and get certified in it. And at these other places, there's somewhere between $1,400 and over $1,600. So it's about half the price. So if they were offering these other courses, there's certainly a demand out there, and they're well below market price.
And also, some of the other training centers in the area have their classes listed publicly on the Apple website, which was something that we found as well. And so this is a sort of an overview of the trainings that are offered, or that can be offered by Apple.
And we noticed that Amherst Media did not have their courses listed on the Apple website, and we got to wondering why that was. And so this is kind of like a visual overview of the courses. So the Apple IT courses is like operating system classes, line the 101 and 201 intro classes. And then basically the way that you can think of it is that the pro apps are more specific courses for people who are into video editing or the other things that the apps can offer. And they're not the primary class that people go to. So like I said, some of these centers had their courses listed online. And then when we looked on the online map, we noticed that some of them were highlighted in gold. And they had what was called gold level certification. So we looked into what exactly that was, and by obtaining a minimum number of courses all the time, and a regular submission of reports to Apple, and excellent customer service through student benchmarks and evaluations, that is how you can get this gold level certification, and all your classes are listed on the Apple website, which of course brings so much more exposure, many more people, much more traffic goes to the Apple website than to Amherst Media's website. And they could easily compare to the other courses that are listed right under them and see the price difference. So, based on all that, we came up with a list of recommendations. And our top recommendation is to expand the offerings that they have now to just Final Cut to the basic IT courses that are in higher demand. And we talked to Kiri, and he's open to obtaining new training certificates. He actually mentioned that this was something that was on his plate. He wants to get trained in more of these courses, so he'd be able to teach them. Also, this would help subsidize the less popular Final Cut courses that they want to still offer. It's Amherst Media, they're there to teach people how to edit video and learn those kind of skills. So this will help them achieve that mission. And if they can only get 2 to 3 people into a class and break even, it's okay, because they'll be making money on the other courses. And this will also lead to obtaining a gold level of training more quickly, because they'll be offering more classes, which is one of the requirements. And like I said, they're well below market price. But we recognize that this will take time and some investment from Amherst Media. They need to get Kiri trained. They need to buy the new software. So we also came up with some other more short-term recommendations.
Yeah, so there's a number of these that we won't go through entirely, but everything from contacting the Amherst Chamber of Commerce to basically advertise their training services in a way to sort of attract people to come to Amherst and spend a weekend learning about the training, doing the training, and then staying at a local inn and eating out at restaurants and that sort of stuff. Also contacting local career offices, approaching the different departments at the universities and schools that might need some of these trainings, and sort of just creating some business buzz in the area that will promote the trainings that they offer.
And we also thought it would be a good idea to add these value-added training programs. That includes maybe like a documentary film component or investigative journalism course, things that Amherst Media is already set up to offer and can do at a relatively low cost, and will give the person coming a more encompassing experience, so that they're just not sitting down on a computer and taking a course, taking an exam and leaving. Also, to develop a training program that integrates with Massachusetts Workforce Training Fund Program to offer online training courses, which some of the other centers all already do. And you have the trainer like Skyping in basically. And also to encourage taking the certification test at the end of the classes. And interestingly enough, we learned that a lot of the participants are leaving before taking the actual certification course at the end. I don't know if they're scared to or what, but it's really worth it. The certification test at the end, and you paid so much money to get that in your resume.
I think that what it is that you have to pay to take the test in addition to taking the class, which isn't a real issue for Amherst Media. It just means they get more money, but they have trouble getting people to do that. So basically, our conclusion is that these recommendations basically fit what Amherst Media requested of us, which is to find where they're not having customers come in. So we feel like these recommendations will help. We recognize that a lot of them are going to be a heavier lift for the organization, but they're already sort of starting to work on integrating some of these ideas. So we just encourage them to continue to do that.
And they'll get more out of their Apple authorized training status.
Yeah.
Don't forget this.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, and they're fantastic presentation. I really loved hearing about this, so nicely done. One question that occurs to me, I'm an Apple user, I love it. My daughter is also an Apple user and loves it. So I know that there are a number of Apple shops in the area, right, in Northampton. Certainly we go down to the Holyoke Mall and they have lots of training there. I'm just curious, and maybe I didn't quite get to this yet, but to what extent there is still an opportunity. I mean, maybe that training for the use of Apple and some of their software products is available locally already.
It's actually through the authorized training centers. It's not. The 3 organizations that we talk to are the only other 3 organizations that actually offer the authorized training services in addition to Amherst Media. The other shops, I think Amherst Media, Yes Computers and Left Click in Amherst, they've talked with them and they're happy because it just means that there might be more potential customers coming to the area that might need to use their services. So it's not necessarily a competition issue, it's just that they're having trouble attracting people to it. And I think that essentially what we found is that it makes a lot of sense for there to be an authorized training center in Western Mass because there isn't one that's that has the prestige of being an authorized training center. So I think it's not as much of an issue as it might seem at first, which is actually a good thing.
Great, thank you.
Those are the closest ones. And the thing is, you're right. I could, if I knew enough about these programs, I could teach it in a classroom or a living room. But I don't have that certification from Apple, so you would not be able to put it on your resume that you are officially Apple certified. So that's really the difference.
Great, that's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
So when nonprofits move into the social business sector, you end up with mission drift problems.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, in your interactions with Amherst Media and just in your own thinking, how far away from the Amherst Media's mission, does providing basic IT courses fall? And were there any concerns about that?
I had some concerns about that, but I sort of, their mission is fairly broad, and it talks a lot about offering resources and trainings and technologies and digital technologies. So I figured this basically is that.
Yeah.
They have a focus on video just because that's sort of their organizational bread and butter. That's what they've always done. And it wouldn't be like they would be only focusing on that. This is just something that was a relatively easy thing for them to do, and they actually did in order to try and get a discount on the new machines that they were buying. so this was that was their primary reason for doing it. So I think it does still fit in with the mission.
And I think overall it's going to bring more people in. I think it'll actually help their Final Cut classes. And we talked to Craig, and he is really open to whatever's going to help make them some more money, and I don't think this strays very far away.
And the other thing too is that they're not losing money by offering any of these classes because they don't have to, they have the equipment there, you know, so it's just like they see this potential revenue source, which is something they obviously need. But yeah, I think Stephen first.
I want to follow up on the question. Who's their target audience?
You mean in terms of like
Who they
viewers?
serving?
Viewers or?
No. You said they're a nonprofit and they're serving a greater Amherst area. Who within the Amherst area is their target audience? I mean, are they gearing themselves to a specific group, a specific?
No.
So they're all over the place.
They're typically, so they don't, they're sort of, the model of an access center is that anybody is free to come and learn a training if they want to. So I guess in that way, their target audience would be people that want to, you know, learn how to do video production or learn, you know, want to create a television program or something like that.
Well,
Or local businesses who need their employees to have it.
Exactly, in this case.
so my concern, when I find frequently that companies ask the wrong question.
Mhm.
And so when they start, they're asking the wrong question. So I'm not sure, for example, are they geared to businesses? Are they geared to certain kinds of businesses? Are they geared to young children who want to learn about these things? Are they geared to college students? Are they geared to old geezers like myself? What are they geared to? And when you talk about mission drift, I think when an organization isn't clear who their target audience is, they just float along and they say, oh, gee, we could get cheaper equipment by doing this, let's do that. And it's not a well thought out plan. So that's why I was wondering whether you kind of question them about their basic assumptions.
Yeah. I don't think we necessarily talk directly about that, but they're entirely aware of the fact that they weren't, you know, this wasn't a strategic decision that they made. It was more of a, you know, it was more of a, yeah, exactly. And which I think ended up not even really end up.
They didn't even end up getting the discount they wanted.
but
they thought we
it's,
could make money.
you know, they're getting into a new thing that might help them in some way. So, Kristen, I believe you.
One more short question. Yeah, no, just did they identify any major barriers that would, help them from adopting your recommendations?
The major one was time.
Yeah.
Craig liked a lot of our ideas, and there were things that he had thought, is this possible, but really, like you said, this was kind of something they stumbled into, so he already had a full plate, and then this was added on top of it, and he really just was never going to get a chance to get around to this anytime soon. Can you think of any other barriers?
Yeah, well, I think that's the main barrier. It's really just getting Kiri, the trainer, to get the certifications that he needs in order for them to be able to offer more of the IT trainings. So I think that's really the biggest thing, time, and then this isn't central to their mission. It's a way for them to get revenue that is also happens to be part of their mission. Or related to their mission, but I think that those are the main issues that they would have.
Great, thanks so much.